Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 204th audio chat on the Q News Patriot Rumble channel series. I'm the Q News Patriot, joined again today by Mack from the MacksForce podcast for an incredible Memorial Day special and audio chat right here on the QNP channel. My name is SG Anon. Patriots, today's show is going to be laser focused on discussing and remembering the ideas of freedom and liberty that made the USA into that shining city on a hill worldwide, as well as the unique and terrible price that is sometimes paid in order to keep it that way. Here in America, we've lived more than 5 generations now without the memory of any warfare upon our own soil. And it's so easy for us to take that blessing for granted and also underappreciate those who have fought wars far away in order to keep them there and not here. I'm honored to be joined for this QNP Memorial Day show by Mack from MacksForce, who himself is an Army infantry veteran and whose unit fired the first shots of what later became Operation Iraqi Freedom. He also has our distinguished appreciation here at QNewsPatriot for his service and his faithfulness to everyone, which included holding a fellow wounded soldier in his arms as he drew his last breath here on Earth. That young man's memory and sacrifice, like so many others, will never, ever be forgotten. We're going to cover a lot of topics today, Patriots, but first, a quick word from today's chat sponsor, BF7 by Juvenon. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Patriots, we could describe the post-COVID world in a lot of different ways, but on a personal note, the biggest differences for my family and I between pre-2020 and post-2020 really center around two main areas: the broad public awakening that we talk about often on this show, and the challenges to maintaining and improving personal health and vitality. I can't speak for all of you out there, but with respect to that inside our household, one of the biggest changes we've seen over the last 5 years has been a noticeable drop in vigor and energy levels. Going into COVID, for example, I was working as a full-time upper mid-level business manager between 45 and 65 hours a week. And it was nothing at all for me to come home after work every day, even on the long weeks, split the housework up, and be an involved and active dad. These days, I keep a schedule that's slightly less than 45 hours each week, with different and arguably less stress than a few years ago. And by the time I hit 9 p.m., it feels like I could fall asleep standing up. I blame that on a lot of different things, from disrupted hormones and American frankenfoods to the biologically altered reality of our world. But over the last 5 years, I've also learned that a major cause of depleted vitality is a deficiency of something called nitric oxide molecules, blood-borne molecules that help relax the body's blood vessels, veins, and arteries, ultimately resulting in better blood flow and circulation to areas of the body that often find themselves shortchanged once our main internal organ systems are provided for. Big Pharma will charge you anywhere from 9 to 20 times the standard market value for their nitric oxide boosting prescriptions, when effective supplements for blood and circulation support exist and are on the free market already. I've tried a couple of these myself over the last few years, but I recently got the chance to try Blood Flow 7, made by Juvenon. And I have to say, Patriots, I think it really works. BF7 is a triple action supplement with clinical studies behind it that show a 150 to 200% increase in nitric oxide production and a widening of vessel and arterial channels by over 50% from baseline. This translates to better flow and more oxygen and nutrition being delivered to both critical and non-critical bodily systems. I've been taking 2 capsules right after breakfast each morning, and I've noticed better stamina, better focus, and more vitality, even on the days where I skip my morning coffee. It's made with naturally derived ingredients, including the inactive fillers, and customer reviews found online suggest people are noticing real results with BF7 in just hours and days rather than weeks or months. Additionally, Juvenon offers a full 60-day empty bottle money-back guarantee on their product in the unlikely event that a customer out there isn't fully satisfied with their experience. You can try Blood Flow 7 by Juvenon for a little over $1 a day by navigating to www.bloodflowthenumber7.com/QNP or clicking the link below today's video. Once again, that is www.bloodflowthenumber7.com/QNP, or look for the link in the description box below. It worked for me, and I hope it works for you too. Thanks. All right, Patriots, we're back with Mack from MacksForce. Mack, thank you again for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you back.
SG, thank you for having me. As always, it is an honor to be here hanging out with you, especially on Memorial Day. I can't think of a better place to be.
Well, you honor me, sir, and quite frankly, your presence is humbling here on Q News Patriot this particular day. This is a day that I think for veterans of all stripes and all colors really holds a great deal of meaning and a significant amount of impact. We're going to start off actually by setting that sort of a tone, and there's a Memorial Day tribute that I'd like to share with you as well as the audience. So give me just a second. This tribute can be found for folks watching on the YouTube channel. Let me double check and make sure I've got the right one here. Champion Forest, and it is from around 11 years ago. So give me just a moment, Mac. I'm going to pull this up and share the screen for everyone. And again, this is about a 2-minute tribute. I thought it was just absolutely beautiful. And we'll be right back after we show this.
Some time back, I received, in the name of our country, the bodies of 4 Marines who had died while on active duty. I said then that there is a special sadness that accompanies the death of a serviceman, for we're never quite good enough to them. Not really, we can't be, because what they gave us is beyond our powers to repay. And so when a serviceman dies, it's a tear in the fabric, a break in the whole, and all we can do is remember. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise. We see them as something like the founding fathers, grave and gray-haired. But most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up 2 lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. We owe them a debt we can never repay. All we can do is remember them and what they did and why they had to be brave for us.
Absolutely beautiful.
Well, in the spirit of that video, let me inaugurate the call today, Mac, by saying thank you very much for your service and for your participation in protecting our republic and all of us. It's great to have you here. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you, SG. I appreciate it. And on this day, I do a shout out to Corporal Storino, who gave the ultimate sacrifice that day over in Iraq. He was shot in the neck, and it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, was to say goodbye to somebody who I fought side by side with. And he was a very young man. I went in at 27 years old. I was 28 when we went to war, and this young man wasn't even old enough to buy an alcoholic beverage. And I can't thank him enough for his sacrifice. And I thank you so very much for that beautiful video and the beautiful words that you have there. So to Corporal Storino, and to all those that did give their lives and are still willing to risk their lives today, thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Amen. And I think one of the best ways anyway, for us to show that appreciation, Mac, is to apply what we've learned, for lack of a better perspective or a better expression of it. You know, as we look at the current status of the geopolitics in the world, the domestic situation in the United States, what clearly is a congealing momentum as opposed to a schism momentum, which we were experiencing about 15 years ago, it's still a bit trepidatious. And I think in many regards, it, you know, stands to challenge us a great deal on how we can move things forward and prevent the types of needless wars, you know, because we acknowledge that certain conflicts are needed. We get that, we understand that, but it is the needless fights, the needless conflicts that I think vex and grieve us the most as humanity. And so as we look forward here, I think applying everything that we've learned over the last 40 to 50 years collectively as a civilization here in the United States may be one of the best ways to honor those that have given the ultimate sacrifice. What are your thoughts on that line of thinking to get us going?
Looking back on what I did in Iraq, I'm extremely proud to have served with the people I've served with. learning what I've learned. I wish I would have known better, but I still would not have stopped it at all. And for all the service members who are still out there fighting today, where so many Americans are screaming, needless, needless, needless. There's nothing needless to the soldiers who are out there doing what they're doing. They honor America by taking that pledge, by raising their hands, and by giving their lives and their families' lives. A lot of families sacrifice a lot when these soldiers walk away and go overseas, or just walk away and serve right here on their own soil. It is a commitment that not too many people in this country have been willing to take, and the ones that do, they serve with honor, they serve with valor, and I salute every single one of them. I know that what we are going through today, Patriots, is hard. It's not easy. I'm still a little choked up because of what I was thinking about. But what we're going through today is as necessary today as it was back then, even more so, because we are truly fighting a threat here in America. And a lot of people think that, it's only overseas that we need to be fighting, but no, it's actually here also that we need to be pulling together. And the people that are out there that are civilians are some of the ones that are going to have to step up possibly and take the realm, or take the reins, and be able to withstand the fight that's coming in front of us. A lot of infighting right now between true patriots that just don't understand what they're fighting over, yelling about and screaming about. Donald Trump is a true hero to this country, and he has been working tirelessly for many, many years, while we have all sat back, kicked our feet up, drank beer, and just asked for things to get better. He's out there fighting the fight that once in a while makes him look like a bad guy. And ladies and gentlemen, today, most likely, I'm going to show him in a light that a lot of people don't show him in. But it is a fight that needs to happen. It has to happen. And a lot of us are willing to stand up and take the reins on this. So it's a fight that needs to happen, SG.
Well, it means a great deal actually to hear those words coming from you, because I think your perspective on the current international and domestic situations, both of those arenas, is really quite measured with respect to what's going on right now. One of the things that I've said recently, and I've talked about it a little bit on air, but I'm going to double it down for our show today, is the fact that all of the recent memory conflicts, and let's say going back to the 1970s, 1980s era, nearly every single one of those we can trace in some form or fashion to being a co-opting or a manipulation by external forces that should not have been in those various arenas to begin with. And many times, but not all the time, but many times, those forces trace back to things like USAID, Western NGO groups, or Western corporate interests, or bona fide intelligence community infiltration on the ground through the form of forward operating bases, research stations, academic partnerships, and so forth. And so as we look at that landscape over the last 45, 50 years or so, it makes a great deal of sense. As a matter of fact, it's perfectly understandable why the American people in particular would be very, very tired of conflict. This has been a near constant state of existence for us here in the United States of America for a very, very long time now, spanning multiple generations. But the current iteration of what we're going through post 2017, really for the first time in history, and certainly for the first time in modern history, is not the same old story being told over again. It is, in fact, the unwinding of a great deal of the ball of yarn that was woven over that 40 to 50 years of externally manipulated and inorganic conflict. So with that, Mack, I want to turn it over to you to share with us some of the stuff that you see, some of the perspective that you have on those issues. And, please, if there's anything that I've said here in this little segment that you disagree with, I would certainly love to hear why and to learn a little bit from you.
Absolutely not, because I'm most likely going to say some things out there that some of the people out in the audience might not necessarily agree with. But I want to remind everybody out there, ladies and gentlemen, you're in a psychological warfare. Wartime is hard times. Peacetime, everybody sits back, kicks back, relaxes, and does what they like to do instead of what they need and have to do. Right now, people are being forced to do what they have to do instead of what they want to do. And the situation that we have at hand is a very complicated one. It's not easy. It's very difficult to understand, because in one hand, people are wanting these better days to come around. They were told better days were going to come around. They were told that There's a possibility that the storm is going to be upon us at any moment and at any time, but that storm is going to bring something great and something awesome, and it is going to, but it's not going to be exactly what people think. It's going to be a little bit more of a harder time, because let's be honest, as Americans, or just as human beings ourselves, when times are easy, we sit back and we enjoy life. We enjoy the time with our families. We enjoy the time with our friends, camping and just getting out and living life the way we thought it was supposed to be lived. And right now, it's not happening the way people want to. The complaints are coming in. We can see them. It doesn't matter if it's about the election, which we will get to with Mr. Massey here, or with the gasoline prices, which are at $4.39 where I'm at, or with the food prices, which are at $8 a pound for a piece of for some hamburger meat. It's not easy. And life right now needs to get a little bit harder, because only at the precipice do people actually stand up and have the willingness to change things which are going on. I want to remind people that during the 4 years of the Biden administration, there wasn't much of an uprise of local communities taking back their community. They were still willing to let the corrupt administrations, the senators, the congressmen, their local state treasury departments, their town treasury, their town committees, to still run rapid and enslave the people that they were sworn to serve. It's still happening right now today. And we can look at Thomas Massey, and that's probably one of the more closer stories that we have, is the Thomas Massey being ousted and being put up as, by Trump, a villain. And I'm going to remind everybody, if you go back 1 year, there was Elon Musk standing next to Donald Trump and giving him Teslas and being in the Oval Office and Doge and everything else. And then the next minute, Donald Trump is downing or going after or literally attacking Elon Musk, and how quickly people turned on him as soon as Donald Trump did. And the next thing you know, Elon Musk is sitting next to Donald Trump in China, with 17, interesting number, 17 people, executive and CEOs sitting next to Donald Trump in China, 17. But one of them was Elon Musk. And from my understanding, Elon Musk and Donald Trump had a fallout. And so many people kind of went along with that story. And my narrative back then was, you got to have a little bit of a fallout if you want to get out from underneath the administration the way you need to. And Elon Musk needed to get away. And one of the best ways to do that, and so that the media and a lot of others don't attack him, is to let Donald Trump attack him. And that's okay. Donald Trump told you that he was willing to take the slings and arrows from everybody. And ladies and gentlemen, that didn't just mean from the Democrats, or that didn't just mean from the left, radical left, or the people with Trump derangement syndrome. It was from you and I also. It was from us every time that he made a decision that we just thought wasn't good. Close the Hormuz Straits. Let's start a war with Iraq. And all of a sudden, the gas prices go up like crazy. And now people are screaming about the gas prices. But now ask some of those people who scream about the gas prices, what is the petrodollar? What has it done to us for all these years that it was installed? And people will tell you they really don't know what the petrodollar is. They don't know what the fiat system is. They don't know how our currency system, the flow of the currency, works. But they're soon going to learn. They're going to learn a lot sooner than what they think, because you can't have people understand what has enslaved them if it's not exposed. Donald Trump is doing that by means of making life a little bit harder for people, because during the 4 years of Donald Trump being in through 2016 through 2020, boy, life is good. People weren't complaining. I wasn't complaining. I wasn't doing research. I didn't care about the petrodollar fiat system, the Fed. I couldn't have told you anything that I couldn't have told you a congressman's name or a senator's name. Things are different for me now. I know almost everybody out there, and I understand how the system works, maybe, which is why I'm not getting as upset as so many other people are. But it's not until the precipice do the people actually decide to stand up and wake up. And we are seeing things happen that Donald Trump is doing that a lot of people can't make sense out of. So they would rather villainize him than try to understand him and try to understand the message that's being put out. You're in a psychological warfare. I've come on your show before to try to show that maybe the Ukrainian war isn't necessarily happening the way it was. And this is during the Biden administration, when we were sending so many young men and women over to die for Ukraine, sending our weaponry over to kill the Russians, and sending all of our money over to basically drain our system out. And that just didn't necessarily happen the way I seen it and the way I tried to show it to you and your audience. And so here we are again during an Iranian war where American soldiers are dying left and right, planes are being shot out of the sky, boats are being blown up in the water, and the American people again are screaming, no new wars, no new wars. We're slowly learning the whole quagmire aspect, where I've actually had people going, what does a quagmire mean? And the quagmire was the Iraqi war, the Afghanistan war, and so many other wars that have been going on. Unending wars kind of thing. And that's not necessarily happening in my perspective. What is happening, though, is a psyop against the American people, because that's the only way the American people will wake up. You were given the option to go and look up the Epstein files. Barely anybody went and looked. A couple million people went and checked it out. Not too many people actually understood what they were reading, but all of a sudden some declassification comes about UFOs, something fun, Independence Day, and so many other movies. Over 1 billion people went and looked that up. That's very, very interesting, considering we were screaming so long, lock them up for the pedophilia they were doing, lock them up for the child sacrifice, and yet not too many people went to look to see how it all happened. But the minute they talk about declassifying UFO and alien race, and Donald Trump brings it up, 1 billion people go and check out all these things that have to do with UFOs and aliens. And it's interesting to see where people's priorities are. And, the Epstein files, I said for a while, was an algorithm. Say it loud enough, and maybe some people will catch on and start talking about it. We did in our little circles that we had, but we've been talking about them for a while. And pretty soon the algorithm got up to the point where there was a reason to finally release them, for people to go through them. And then what happened right off the bat, as soon as one person said Donald Trump is in them, everybody's saying, well, Donald Trump is in them. That's why they're not being released. But they're being released when they're redacting Donald Trump's name, and Tulsi Gabbard is on his side, Pam Bondi's on his side. They're all going to lock it down. Kash Patel is going to hide it from everybody. Well, more people went and looked at UFO files than the Epstein files. That should tell you exactly where the priorities for people are. Now, for a lot of you guys out there, I'm sort of a realm aspect with a firmament over it. I don't necessarily believe in outer space extraterrestrials. We don't need to get into that now, but there are things among us that do walk with us. We don't even know it every single day. The Greys, giants, so on and so forth are literally here. And maybe the way to bring them out is a slow release into what people can understand. But what Donald Trump is doing right now is upsetting a lot of people. I've watched people turn on him. Alex Jones has said what he needed to say, and Marjorie and everybody else, they're kind of turning their back on him. And the people who screamed, I voted for Donald Trump, are now screaming, I wish I never did. And I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, what you're watching is a psychological warfare. It's a psyop. And as much as it was fake back then, it's fake now. And with your permission, SG, I'd like to show a couple videos here so people can kind of understand what I mean by fake, because fake gets, go ahead.
No, I was just inviting you, please.
Yeah. Well, fake gets thrown out a lot. It really does. We hear fake a lot. Okay. And this is one of those where, is that being shared, SG? Can you see the screen?
Indeed, we can.
Okay. Because it just went away on my end, but I will pull it back up here. Give me 1 second. But you see Mr. Biden here. We all remember this scene. This is Joe Biden getting ready to walk up to the microphones. Now, to the average person who watched this, it literally looks like Joe Biden is on the south lawn of the White House, and he's going to go walk and talk to the media. So let's do that real quick. Let's go walk and talk with Joe Biden in the mask that he's wearing. 2 masks. I'm going to mute it here real quick because we don't need to see the plane, but here we go. Microphones, hands through the microphone. You can slow it down as much as you want. The hands go through the microphones. He's not standing in front of cameras. He's not standing in front of the media. What we said is he's not even a real president, inaugurated at 11:47, but here he is in front of the media, the ones that we still use today, the ones that are still interviewing Donald Trump today, the ones that we say are fake news. Donald Trump still calls them the fake news. It's still fake news, but there is his hands going through the microphones. Now, to me, this is not real. This is CGI. SG, would you agree with this scenario?
Well, unless we've somehow deployed molecular phasing technology, it would have to be CGI of some kind.
This is microphones being put in front of him, computerized. He's not seeing himself, the actor who is portraying Joe Biden during the 4 years, which it was several people in my book. But right now, he's not looking at a TV camera to see that his hands are going through the microphone any more than the NASA people are actually looking, and when their hands go through themselves. They're not seeing the TV. They're only knowing the script that they walk up and they do hand motions and they do little signals and talk about exactly what they need to talk about. And here's the microphones going through his hands. And everybody was blown away with that, SG. Everybody. I was blown away. You were blown away. It's like, wow, we're watching something that's not even real. So that must mean the administration isn't real. I wonder what message they're going to be putting out to us. Well, let's go to our commander-in-chief, Donald Trump. Now, this little bit that you're going to watch here, this is from Donald Trump leaving to go over to the state visit with Steimer at the UK. He's getting ready to get on Marine Force One to go to Air Force One to go overseas. Now, the idea here is that he's talking to the media to let them know about what's going on. He's taking the questions that he needs to answer, right? But he's literally talking to the same media personnel, the people that Joe Biden was talking to. These are the same people that aren't necessarily pointing out, hey, your hand's going through the microphone. Now, I'm gonna show you this. Now, I'm gonna also mute this a little bit here, but I did want to play the sound. So, you know, this isn't doctored. You can go to YouTube yourself, type in Donald Trump leaves for the UK to meet Steimer over a year ago. I want you to watch the microphones, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, you are watching a movie. You were given a gift that not too many other people were given. You were soldiers fighting in a war of manipulation, and you were given a gift of sight. Don't throw it away. Don't dismiss it. You have literally been given something that not too many people have. Now pay attention to the microphones.
Say this right away. Stop sending Tren de Aragua into the United States.
Okay.
Stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked you up actually 3 votes, not 2, but you saw 2.
We're going to go forward a little bit.
Into our country.
Okay. Now here we go. Now the camera's going to roll back a little ways, and I did mute this because we don't need to hear the engine in the back. But right there's the first boom mic. Boom mics are so much fun. They come out of nowhere, you know. And boom mics are always in these outside of people holding, but you can see a little bit there, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. So now pay attention to that big boom mic right in front of him. Everybody put them right in front of him. Now, Trump, please take a step forward. Oh, my goodness gracious. You're telling me that the boom mic ran into him and he didn't notice. Let's watch one more time. Let's watch very carefully. His hands sort of going through it, which, hey, Mac, it's an angle thing. You didn't see it right. I understand. I agree with you. Now, Donald Trump, if you would please walk into this microphone. So right now we're looking at a microphone that's basically inside of his arm, inside of his jacket, inside of his chest. He never moves. He doesn't flinch. He just walks right through it, puts his hands right through it. Did you see his hand go through the microphone there, SG? His hand went right through
the right hand.
Yep, right there's his right hand. And his hand goes right through the microphone. Now, this isn't the only time. I'm not going to take up a lot of time on this, but I'm trying to show you, Patriots, you're watching a movie. This is the greatest actor of all times. He's playing a good guy and a bad guy. Here we go. Microphone into his gut. Now his hand's through the microphone, hand through the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching a movie. This man is standing in front of a green screen. That helicopter is not behind him. Now, this happens a lot more times. You can go back and watch it yourself. He keeps running into it. Here's this nice photographer over here, not pointing out that he's running into the microphones. Now, as we move forward, and I do have to move it forward just a little bit here. Now, here we go. Now, here's all the microphones. Here's all these boom microphones. And for somehow his hands are going to be wrapping right around him. His hands are going to be going through him. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. Manipulation at its finest, although they're not getting it right on the cameras. They're not paying attention, but pretty soon Donald Trump's hands is going to start going around these microphones. He's going to start holding his hands up the way he does and cuffing them and putting a little cup around his hands, and his hands are going to be going into the microphones. And there we go. More and more of it. I think that I might have went a little bit too far, but I think we're getting the point here. All these people are not there. This is all a green screen. This is not real. You are being psychological warfare, which again, you were given eyes to see, but not necessarily the sense to understand everything, because it's an emotional psychological warfare. But here again, these microphones are hitting him left and right in the gut. They're hitting him in his jacket. The jacket doesn't move, but the microphones do. And this does start over. They do start it over. But I will say this, I played it enough that back, if you was to go back when I originally did this, I watched the whole sequence, and as he stands there, he starts going a little bit more into the microphone. He grabs onto it, which if I touch this, you can tell I'm touching it. His hands go through it. This isn't real. This is all CGI. This is camera work. You are watching the great deceiver, the manipulator, the 5G chess guy. He is manipulating the media. He's manipulating the Democrats. In a lot of ways, he's manipulating us, because it takes an emotional response for people to actually get involved. When times are good, you're not going to do anything. When times are bad, you're going to speak up, and some people are actually going to do a little bit more research than others. So I wanted to make a correlation here real quick between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, which people don't like. They don't want me to make a reference to Donald Trump and Biden, the same kind of administration. You're not in a republic kind of constitutional aspect. You're in a corporation. The other day, Donald Trump went to China. And when he went to China, the new Fed chair was approved. He was approved by a pretty good margin there. He was let in, and too late, Jerome Powell is taken out. I have video after video of people screaming, I can't believe they let a man who was in the Biden administration and the Clinton administration into the Federal Reserve. Why would they ever do that? My question to you is, why are you wanting the Federal Reserve to be around a little bit longer? Why are we fighting for the Federal Reserve to stick around? It's not going to enslave you any less. It's only going to enslave you more. The other day, he referred to the king and queen as central casting. He said it on camera. He's been saying central casting more and more. He looked at Scott Bessent, our Secretary of Treasury, and said, look at Scott, the glasses and everything. Now that's central casting. If I was going to make a movie and I was going to have a good looking guy, I would have Scott Bassett in there as central casting. Well, isn't that amazing that he would call Scott Bassett, the king and queen, his top generals, as central casting? He's still doing it today. Again, your first 4-year administration during Donald Trump times were good. You didn't know any executive orders went out. You didn't know about human trafficking, and you didn't know about what was underneath the White House, did you? But you do now, don't you? Well, if you don't, I'm gonna cue you in here in a little bit. But Donald Trump is doing exactly what needs to happen to wake up the American people. You gotta hurt us to wake us up, because when you make us comfortable, we're gonna go back to sleep, and the Matrix isn't where we want to be. So with that, there was a moment where Donald Trump, he gave you exactly the information that we've been looking for. See, if I told people back in the day that the White House had tunnels and everything underneath it, they'll say, yeah, well, I've seen that on the movies where the president goes down, he goes into a nice little secured bunker, or he can take this one tunnel and the tunnel just goes out and goes somewhere else. Well, he didn't say that here. This isn't what he said. He told you that there's a medical facility. There's a military facility. There are bases underneath the White House, and he told you about it. The only thing that this was supposed to be was a ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, If this was only about a ballroom, you would have only heard about a ballroom. People are only screaming about a ballroom. And I'm not talking about the money. I don't care. That's not the point about the money. That's just the other side of the rhetoric. But now we're looking at an open ground facility of medical, military, and meeting rooms. We'll do the meeting rooms. But he literally tells the people here what's underneath the feet of the ballroom. And I find this interesting. I'm going to let this play here for a second, just for a minute or two.
It's also meant as a drone port, so it protects all of Washington, the roof of the building. Does anybody have any questions? If you want, you can take, I think you can bring your camera down.
It is just a tad difficult to hear out there, Mac.
Yeah, I know. All that hammering and everything else. He's basically pointing down into the bunker, which most people think that this is just the Donald Trump bunker where, you know, Hitler had a bunker and that's where he was going to escape. And Donald Trump has a bunker, he's going to escape. I learned a while back about med beds. Med beds were supposed to be a really interesting thing. It's supposed to heal you or whatever. And he talks about a medical facility down there, high tech medical facility. Why would they need a medical facility underneath a ballroom? He talks about a roof that has drones above it. Why would we necessarily need a drone, a drone facility or a drone heliopad to send out drones to stop other drones? That's very interesting. He talks about our fear or what we need to be afraid of drones. When we see drones as these kind of a big thing, they have a missile or a rocket or some kind of explosive on, they hit it, they blow up. That's what we've been seeing through the Strait of Hormuz, through the boats and getting hit. But yet he talks about drones being released from hangars. The word I was looking for was hangars, from on top of the ballroom to stop other drones from hitting us. He refers to being able to see 365 degrees all the way around DC. This to me was very, very interesting. He clued the American people in about a facility underneath the White House that was already there. This isn't being built, it's being remodernized. He's not telling you it's building from scratch. This is being built and being remodernized for today's maybe air attacks that are coming in. He talks about a golden dome, a dome over the White House that would be secured with drones. And he talks about how nothing is going to be able to penetrate this drone aspect with other drones or any kind of missiles, basically 4-inch windows. It's a lot of interesting fun here, but he's telling us, showing us, as we talk to people and say, you realize that there's another city underneath DC. You have domes underneath your ground, a deep underground military base, a dome. And what is he talking about? A military facility underneath the White House that was already there. He's just making it more advanced, redoing it basically. And then he shows the hole that these workers are in, shows the area where it's at. I tell you what, if I was an enemy, this is probably where I would want to attack right now. Why allow this to play out longer than it is? We can attack it right now. Why wait for it to be built? But they're not doing that. He's literally showing us, SG, to our face what was underneath the White House the whole time. You were right. If you told somebody about this, you were correct. But he's basically showing everybody that there is a deep underground military base right underneath the White House. And the only thing that we heard about the whole time was a ballroom. I find this extremely interesting. SG, do you have anything on this at all you want to add?
Well, I find the focal point of where you're going with this absolutely fascinating, and I totally agree with you. The facilities underground in Washington, D.C., and really underneath all of the major metros in the United States, as well as several of our largest domestic military bases, those underground arenas are simply massive as far as their square kilometer, their square mileage, if you want to call it that. But the other thing that I think I would add to that, Mac, with respect to the White House issue in particular, is you see the American president now not only declassifying indirectly the reality of the situation there on the ground in the Capitol with the White House itself, but also projecting an image to the world and conveying to the world that this facility, A, is under the control of patriots, and B, is no longer going to be a free pass, a blank check, a vulnerable, weak chain link in the system going forward. This is a secure facility, one way in, one way out. It's got the highest level of technological protection. It's got the highest level of infrared protection. It's got the highest level of advanced early warning systems. It's got the highest fortification level that we're aware of any of our domestic facilities. And again, that is in the public domain is what I'm talking about when I say that. And so this is extremely dissuading for an opponent, an adversary, especially a paramilitary group that does not have the backing of a nation state military. This provides a pretty big deterrent to try and leverage, control, blackmail, threaten, or intimidate in the back rooms the U.S. government and the commander in chief. And in that very segment that you showed just a moment ago, if Patriots go back and watch that conference, I encourage folks out there, if you're watching this broadcast, you really should go and watch that segment where Trump is answering those questions about the ballroom. Because within that segment, he also talks pretty explicitly about the next generation capabilities of moving the military and the president into a very secure environment very quickly and being able to hold in the moment discussions at a moment's notice when something goes wrong, if something were to go off the rails, rather than the president having to be in transit from one location to another. And Mac, just as well as I do, being a veteran of the armed forces, you are only the most vulnerable when you are visible and moving. And so looking at what you've got happening there on the ground, this to me is not only the revelation of what has been, but it is the conversion of what has been into one of the core cornerstones, if you will, one of the pillars for ensuring that a lasting peace comes out of this entire era, which we're all living through, because nobody will want to try and attack the other. And I'll close that segment by saying, or this part of the discussion by saying that the Kremlin underneath President Putin has been doing a very similar thing with preparation of an orchestral hall that is rumored to have a massive hospital complex beneath it.
I didn't get your take on the hands through the microphone thing there with Donald Trump. I didn't know. Have you had seen that one last year? Did anybody else bring that one up to you? I could have swore I sent that one to you. If I didn't, I apologize. But I wanted your take on that one as far as the manipulation, the green screen, the CGI that we are actually able to see in real time with him leaving the White House.
Well, I think my position on that would be very much in agreement with yours because it's prima facie evidence. When you see it on the camera, you're watching the video footage, you're seeing the passing through of, organic matter, living material, if you will, through what is obviously a digital rendering of some kind. And it is a psychological operation, I think, in a great deal, what we're living through the present day and time. But what is that psychological operation covering, or what is it seeking to protect? What are the aims for it? What are its objectives? And I think the answer to that is pretty myriad. You've got awakening the population, which you highlighted on a moment ago as being very important. It is factually true that oppression breeds rebellion. That is always a truism amongst human nature. It always has been. It likely always will be. But at the same time, I think that there's kinetic objectives that need to be handled as well. And some of those I think we can look at for like a cross-sectional slice, if you will. We can look at it right now in the Strait of Hormuz and what's happening with respect to the U.S. Navy being on the ground there in the waters. They are physically there. We know that they're there. There's a lot of paramilitary forces that are also there. And one of the things that I found extremely fascinating was that forces aligned with the Iranian Navy recently seized, it's been a few weeks ago now, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but they seized a vessel that was flying under a number of different flags, clearly attempting to misdirect or misrepresent its port of origin and where it was actually from and what it was actually doing. But it was traced to Greek ownership by the Iranians, who published the seizure of it, and declared the forfeiture of the cargo and things, and they got on there and did what they do. But it was traced to Greek ownership, and the Greek ownership company of that particular vessel, that cargo vessel, it's a medium-sized vessel. I forget the first name, but the last name on the vessel is Monrovia. And the ownership traces to a Greek company named Technomar Shipping. And Technomar is a fascinating entity because Technomar has a 30-year storied history of leasing out and logistical management, if you will, of a great deal of worldwide shipping lanes using some of their own hardware but also doing a lot of third-party brokering for larger lines and larger carriers and bigger groups and conglomerates. And one of their favorite customers, going all of the way back to 1996, Mac, is Evergreen Marine. So when you look at what's happening there in the Strait of Hormuz, when you look at what's happening with respect to the Yemenis and their rhetoric coming up again about the undersea cables in the Red Sea, when you look at the Pakistanis and the movements of their military assets very recently to Saudi Arabia, I think that is what some of the PSYOP in the West is actually protecting. It's the geostrategic realignment of the power structures in the Middle East, but also this I hate to use the term silent because it's not really a silent war in the information age, but this under the surface conflict that's being fought really between organized patriotic forces and paramilitary actors having all sorts of backgrounds, allegiances, and loyalties. Some of it to Luciferianism, some of it to Zionism, some of it to just pure power and greed and control and self-advancement. Some of it is self-protectionism. I think a lot of it is bribery and blackmail to some degree. And so all of these malign interests worldwide that had been caught up in the wheel and chain of dealings with one another and are now being targeted. I think that's what's the real story here happening on the ground, not only in the Middle East, but in all areas, and soon, I think, to include Cuba.
Oh yeah, that especially since that came up. I want to point out to everybody that we captured Maduro by using high-tech technology to get this man to not eliminate, but to make his people unable to fight. We used technology. We were able to get in, capture this man, get him on a plane, get him on a boat, and then transfer him 5 times with 5 different wardrobe changes to a same place where Diddy is. I just find that very interesting. But in this situation where Obama sent billions of dollars to a country, we had to go and attack and fight. And people don't want to correlate the fact that we funded this regime through the Obama administration, and Trump goes and takes out the same country that we through Obama funded. So so many different things happening. You have one story that's put, and by the way, people, it's a lot easier to say after 40 years of saying it, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, than actually saying Obama sent money over there and set up that regime and it's terrorizing its own people. The American people aren't going to buy that one. They just won't. They might buy the nuclear thing a lot more than they will that. So the idea that we are doing something there, absolutely. The idea that what maybe is being put up there by Donald Trump, that we're doing it for that reason, might not necessarily be 100% true. I'm only going on what I believe and not what others. But I want to bring up one more thing before we move on. The new flock cameras, the way the psychological warfare works. Because I found this very interesting. I went the other day to look at the map of the flock cameras. And if you look at the flock cameras here, they are literally put into positions down here by the port in Texas, up here in Ohio by Lake Erie, over here by Minneapolis. And then I'm going to push play. There's no sound, but you start seeing flock cameras, the surveillance technology that's being used against all Americans. After the end here, I want you to look at where the majority of them are. And I try to correlate this with the understanding of our military is the Iron Dome, our Air Force. And along the coastline, Great Lakes, the middle part of this country, down by Texas and the Gulf of America, across Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico, Los Angeles, San Diego, and way up here, what do all these things have in common? Well, they're all by the ports. And you just brought up Evergreen, which you know I always love doing this. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is Skyglass. You can go get this app yourself. But I've been doing this for years now, several years now, and I've been talking about Club Ks. We all know what Club Ks are. They're such destructive pieces of equipment. But these flock cameras are now being put up in major ways in the same areas that I've been tracking the air refuelers, the Blackhawks, the P8s, the P3s, the C30s, the C17s, the C130s. And what you see up on your screen right now are 61 Blackhawks, 33 C30s, 22 C17s, 18 KCR 135 air refuelers, some NAs, which we don't know what they are, but a lot of them are spy planes, B762s, those are air refuelers, are 14, 11 C-130s, 8 Chinooks, which there should never be more than one up, and 5 P-8s. Now, if I remove all their titles, and I can remove them, they are
Mac,
around.
is that a screen that you're on actively at the moment?
I'm sorry?
The screen that you're reading from right now with the Sky Glass, is that the one that you're on actively at the moment? Because what
Yes,
we
sir.
see currently is the X platform search results.
Okay, so give me 1 second here. Let me redo that.
Just want the audience to be able to follow along here. I think this is a really important point to make.
Is it up now?
Indeed.
Okay. All right. So, but you got the flock camera was up there, correct? The map when I was
Indeed.
showing it. Okay. So this to me is our Iron Dome. And I've removed the tags, I've removed their call signs and everything, so you can see where the dots are. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And if you look, these are air refuelers, these are Blackhawks, and these are P-8s over the port of Los Angeles. Right? We have these beautiful, and there's going to be a little bit of a move here, but this is over the port of Los Angeles. This is a P-8. This is a sub hunter, this subterranean hunter. This can look through the water, the ground, and even containers. And where are they at? They're over the port of Los Angeles. Here we go up to DC, or Portland, Oregon, Washington. What do we have up here? Another P-8 right by the ports. And this is where the flock cameras are the most. Right now in this area, there's several P-8s. There's air refuelers refueling them. And I'm not really quite sure why I'm getting this big of a delay from Sky Glass. I am doing this one sec. You know what? I'm going to do this. For some reason, this is actually running a little slow here. So I'm going to redo this here. SG, give me 1 second, but you can see the flock camera. So everybody understands, I'm not trying to put anything up where they're not showing us already. These flock cameras are in play. They have been set up. I would say if we want to use this as a nefarious thing, they're looking at every single one of us. They're spying on every single one of us. Are they really? Just like some of the other things that gets put out, it might be more to rile you up and upset you than it is actual facts of what it's doing. And while this reloads here, I want to remind everybody that overseas, over by Iran and over in Ukraine, we still don't have the military air support that they do like they do here. And I'm going to put this back up so I can actually see what is up right now. But I need to get out of Europe, get back over to America, and hit refresh. Now this is going to load in. It's going to be a little bit quicker than what it was. And I'm not going to put any lines up because that actually takes time away. But I'm going to remove anything that doesn't need to be used. I'm going to leave the Blackhawks. I'm going to leave the C-30s, C-17s. I'm going to put in the air refuelers. I'm going to put in the P-8s. I'm going to put in the Chinooks, and I need to find my P3, which is just, that's just Canada, and he's always up there. So we're going to leave it just as this. These are all the air refuelers, ladies and gentlemen. There's only one thing that we need in America that need to be refueled right now. We're actually two: fighters and Blackhawks. Blackhawks can only stay aloft for so long. Fighters can only stay aloft for so long before they need to be refueled. Well, these are your air refuelers up right now over our skies. All right, and right now there's a lot of them over here in DC, or off the West Coast, and that's actually a good amount over the West Coast. But adding in the P-8s down here, and then adding in the Blackhawks, there should. And by the way, when Donald Trump was in office, you would have no more than 3 or 4 Blackhawks up. You would never have a P-8, and air refuelers were never over our head because they would never be refueling. A C-17, a C-130, and a C-30 Hercules can fly all the way around the globe almost. They're heavy movers. They're there to move Blackhawks, Chinooks, tanks, military artillery units. Right now, you have, you have 22 C-30s over your head. You have 20 C-17s and 12 C-130s. Now on the screen, there are 115 different kind of air support above our head. To me, you can put a directed energy weapon on a C-17, C-130, or C-30 Hercules. These are big. They do take big batteries, but that's what these planes are for. As I pan down, I want you to look at the height of these things. They're low. These things are extremely low to the ground. Here is an air refueler. It's 11,000 feet off the ground. It's going at 278 knots, about 100 knots slower, and it's going to fall out of the sky. There's no reason for an air refueler to be at 11,000 feet. Fighters fly up at 30,000 feet, but this air refueler is down here. Now, is there anything by the air refueler? Probably if I actually move around a little bit more, in which, by the way, I'm sorry, I had to restart. Well, we'll do this one right here. Here's an air refueler right above a Black Hawk. Here is a C-17, 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 all above our heads. They're not going overseas, SG. If I wanted to track the C-17's flight movements, if I just add in their lines, these things are not going overseas, SG. They're literally staying right here over our heads, circling back and forth. And I did this the other day. There were 20 P-8s above our head, 20 of them. And there's no reason for a P-8 to be over our head at all. But right here, these C-17s and C-130s are literally flying around over our head, back and forth across the nation. I don't think they're moving things from the East Coast to the West Coast, because that's not how that works. We have a rail line for that. But where they are located, over the ports. Here's the ports. Right here are all the ports. Here are the Black Hawk C-17s and air refuelers. Here are the ports. And over here, Port of Los Angeles, all these air refuelers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 air refuelers and a P-8 all over the Port of Los Angeles and right next to it. And these are all in the same locations as the flock cameras. So I said a year ago, you and I got together a year ago, and I said, you know, these air refuelers and all this just doesn't make any sense unless they were building a golden dome to stop from launching something within our nation's border, inside of our nation, against our nation. You would have to have air support above your head to be able to stop something from being launched within this nation. If we were worried about Iran, China, North Korea launching something from overseas, well, we would be over there. We can be over there, but they're not over there. They're over our heads. So my theory, and it's just a theory, ladies and gentlemen, it's just my opinion, nobody else's. I just have my own little silly opinion here, that they're in the same position as the flock cameras. They're literally watching the roads, because when these containers get taken off the ships, they are put on trucks and they are put on trains. They are going down the roads and they're going across our country. And if we have fighters above our heads, air refuelers above our heads, spy planes above our heads, it would only be for one thing: to look for the dangers within our nation, not outside. And a lot of people do say, you know, well, what do you have on the outside? Well, I'm going to remove, I'm just going to take what I wanted up and put everything up. These are all the aircraft above our head, 291. Good gosh. Let's go over to Europe. Just because you're, oh, that's no, sorry. Let's go over to Europe. Good amount of things over in Europe. Now let's go check Iran. Let's go check this area over here that's in danger. We have something from the UAE. This is the Saudi Arabia C-130, and this is our KCR 135. One air refueler in an area we're at war. Now, I understand a lot of you guys out there, because I get it in the comments. Mack, they're turning off their transponders. They don't want to be seen. They could get shot down. You're right. You're absolutely right, Patriots. If I was a military aircraft, I would want my transponders turned off too. I wouldn't want to be shown anywhere around there. I do find it interesting, though, that for some reason, the regular commercial flights, they don't seem to care. Not one bit. There's Taiwan. Sorry, I'll bring it back over here. These are commercial flights, Patriots. Now, we're told that Iran will shoot anything down out of the sky. They've been doing it for years. They'll attack pedestrians. They'll attack commercial flights. But these are all commercial flights. And they're going around Iran. They're going around Iraq. They're going around Syria. They're going around the whole area. They don't go anywhere near it. Now, this reminds me a lot of what I've shown you over in Ukraine, where they said, well, our military flights don't go anywhere near them because, well, they don't want to get shot down. I agree. But the same thing in Ukraine is happening. The flights are not allowed to go anywhere around Ukraine, even though the fighting is right here along this little border, the Ukrainian-Russian border. Flights aren't allowed to go anywhere, even near Poland. They got to stay away from, look at these planes going away. Oh, sorry. Can't see that. Let me change that. Staying away from the Ukrainian Belarusian border. They don't go anywhere near it. It's almost as if the people on the plane might see something that you and I aren't allowed to know. No different than down here by Iran. Again, I'm not saying we're not at war with Iran. What I'm saying to you is that for some reason, these commercial pilots don't mind putting their transponders on, any more than going over here to the marine traffic, in which I've always talked about, Evergreen, and we were just talking about it. I'm not going to do the search on those. I did that yesterday, and man, there were so many. But I want to show you this. If you were sitting on nothing but oil, and it was just one big ticking bomb away, wouldn't you turn your transponders off? Boats can turn their transponders off. They don't have to show their locations. But for some reason, for the whole time during the war, this isn't just now. I've been watching this. I do it every day. These boats, who are no more than they're not 100 miles away from the coast of Iran. They don't seem to mind too much sitting out here floating next to Iran itself. We never, ever said, hey, Iran, if you blow up these boats, we're not going to do anything to you. We've said for a while, if you attack the shipping industry through the Straits of Hormuz, we're going to attack you back. And if I didn't want to be attacked, and if I was a captain of a commercial vessel, I damn sure would not have my transponders on going right. I mean, look at these boats. This is Iran, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't another country. These are boats going in and out of Iran, container ships sitting right next to Iran, boats floating right next to Iran. This is not an Iranian boat right here, is it? Oh, it is. There's an Iranian boat getting ready to pass through the Strait of Hormuz or come around this way. No different than this boat right here. Which one's this one from? I couldn't even tell you that flag. My son is an expert at flags, but these boats, SG, do not avoid this area. Matter of fact, they're parked right out next to this area. They're parked right out next to these shorelines of Iran. And if I was going to be next to a country that is shooting and killing innocent bystanders, I sure would not be parking my boat with the transponders on any more than I would be a commercial air flight coming from the UAE, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, any of Bahrain, all those commercial flights. Iran apparently is bombing Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, but yet not one commercial flight turns their transponders off, which means to me, and the other day, just so everybody knows, our military personnel was right there next to Iran, and there were 11 P-8s. I've never seen that many over there before, but there were 11 of them over there right next to the strait. Now, SG, you're going to love this because this is going to be right up your will. You're going to love this. It's right up your alley. These are your earthquakes, or what I call explosions. Hey, shockingly enough, look at this, an earthquake right there in Iran. Oh, what's it at? It's at 10. And we've talked about the depths of 10 kilometers being the transport tunnels for these deep underground military bases or underground facilities or anything bad guy you want to call it. And sure enough, right here, right off the coast, you have a 10. 4.9, 21 kilometers from Bandar Abbas, Iran, which is right off. And what did I have over here the other day? 11 sub-hunters, subterranean aeroplanes sitting right above this area. And what do we have here today? Explosions underneath the ground, or for a lot of you guys, an earthquake. That's fine. This isn't the only 10. It never is the only 10. I can find the other 10s around here. There's always more 10s, but we're only talking about this one. And it's right there in Iran where I was tracking the P-8s, the sub-hunters, the other day. By the way, you have a 10 in Alaska. You have a 10 in Iran. You have a 10 in another one in Alaska. Geez, Alaska's getting hit today, aren't they? Geez, oh, Pete, that's 2 up in Alaska. Let's go look in Alaska. That would be right in this area. And we have a 75, a 38, a 0.8, and a 53. Where are your 10s for Alaska? Well, they're right over here. This is where they are. This is a 5.7. There's your 10. And there's your 10. There's always 10s around. But again, it's conjecture. You don't have to go with it. You don't have to believe it. But it's weird that black systems and our air support is right there. It's weird that these 10s show up right where the P8s were a couple days before. You would want to survey an area. You would want to get the lay of the land with P8s before you went in and blew it up. That's the way I would see a 10 explosion happening in Iran. Very interesting, but it is to me. So,
well, I have to say it makes the compelling case from what we were talking about earlier in our call, which is that in the present day and time, really for the first time in history, the meaning of days like Memorial Day or Veterans Day or service and sacrifice is actually where it is supposed to be. It's not, us sending our brothers and sisters and sons and daughters off to war for the bankers. It's us taking the war to the construct that the bankers have built to enslave and destroy humanity and actually taking them out to prevent those types of situations into the future. And with that, Mac, I want to lead us into our closing segment. What is the takeaway for veterans out there, for folks that are watching this broadcast on Memorial Day and wondering, when is it going to get better? When is it going to stop? At what point do we have the public momentum at hand to begin having these conversations at a big scale and changing things rapidly? What is the takeaway from all of this for that group of individuals?
Well, in my opinion, and it's not going to change. It's going to get worse before it gets any better. You can't make things better until people realize how bad they are actually locked into the system, enslaved. And I want to remind every one of you, when these people are out there screaming and yelling at Donald Trump about the elections and everything else, about the Fed, they're literally screaming about the system that has kept us enslaved our whole lives. And they're willing to yell and scream about the system so that they can pretty much well be at ease, relaxed, because that's the matrix that they know. They talk about Stockholm Syndrome. There's nothing more Stockholm Syndrome than people claiming to be awake, to be wanting to be free from the system that we're in, and literally arguing when the system is being exposed, taken out, and being blown up right underneath their feet. Yes, the military is doing a dangerous job, but I will tell you this. We have been having this conflict go on in Ukraine and Iran and some stuff for a while. The libs, the outcry isn't there. You have social media screaming like crazy about everything else. But when it comes to the things that you're seeing right now, the soldiers coming on the caskets, it's not the left. It's not the Trump derangement syndrome people that are screaming about it. Matter of fact, they're not screaming about it at all, because there's no, I would have to say that somewhere in these families, there's some people out there that really hate Donald Trump. And I still yet have seen any videos of these ceremonies where they're literally screaming, my son, my daughter had died for something that wasn't even true. That's not happening. What they're actually fighting and screaming about is the things that are being put up on camera. Their sons and daughters are dying. We have military personnel that are dying, but it's not the war that they're portraying right there on the media. The lying, the television, the lying media is still doing the propaganda that they need to do, the psychological warfare that they need to do to keep the American people arguing and yelling, and hopefully getting them to the precipice where they start to wake up of the enslavement that we've been in this whole time. Don't be afraid to send your sons and daughters into the military. Donald Trump is in control of our military. He's not going to put your sons and daughters in harm's way for money, for greed, and for a war that's senseless. He's doing it to free us from the cabal that has kept us enslaved our whole lives. And finally, we're getting out of it. Let's be the brave soldiers. We've been going through basic training for 6 years, people. 6 years you've been in basic training. Don't lose it now over the rhetoric that they're screaming. Be above it. Have the eyes to see and the knowledge to know that there is a psychological warfare going on. And the commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, this man right here, who is still my president, who I'd vote for again, he's going to have to play the bad guy for a while. And that's all right, because once in a while in a movie, what makes a movie good? Good guys and bad guys.
Better closing words I couldn't have come up with if I scripted it myself. Mack, thank you very much for joining me on an incredible Memorial Day tribute here for Q News Patriot. For the audience out there, if you'd like to learn a little bit more and follow Mack's work, you can navigate to the links in the description box below this video. God bless everyone, and thank you very much for joining us on an incredible holiday special here on QNP. Stay safe and be well. Thanks.
Love you.
Bye-bye.